A major champion snapped on live TV. A tour rebel is coming back. And the billion-dollar golf empire that changed everything might already be dying. What you are about to watch unfold is not just a golf story. It is not about a leaderboard. It is not about a final round scorecard. And honestly, it is not even really about the PGA Championship. What happened this weekend at Oak Hill Country Club touches something much deeper than that. We're talking about rage that has been building for years, finally boiling over on the biggest possible stage. We are talking about a man who just won the Masters, the tournament he chased for over a decade, now standing in a fairway at the PGA Championship, screaming at a fan, getting into it with security, and potentially facing punishment from the very tour he just helped save. And then, while that story was still spreading across every golf media outlet in the world, another bomb dropped quietly in the background, one that could completely redraw the map of professional golf as we know it. Stay with me through this entire video, because I promise you, by the time we get to the final segment, what is happening behind the scenes with LIV Golf will genuinely shock you. I have been following this sport for years, and I did not see this coming at this speed. But first, let's go back to the moment everything exploded. Real quick, before we get into all of this, if you are new here, welcome to Rick Analysis PGA. This channel is where we go beyond the highlights, beyond the scorecards. We talk about what actually matters in professional golf. The rivalries, the pressure, the money, the drama, and everything happening behind the curtain that mainstream golf media won't touch. We are a brand new channel, and we are building something serious here. If you love golf the way I love golf, not just watching it, but truly understanding it, hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the bell so you never miss a breakdown. And drop a comment below telling me what you think about everything that happened this weekend, because this community is what makes this channel worth building. All right, let's get into it. The atmosphere at Oak Hill. To really understand what happened on Sunday at the PGA Championship, you have to understand the atmosphere that was building all weekend long at Oak Hill Country Club. This was not a calm, peaceful major. From the very first round, there was an edge to this tournament that you could feel through the television screen. The crowds were loud. They were rowdy. They were bringing an energy that felt closer to a college football tailgate than a traditional major championship setting. And look, I'm not saying that is entirely a bad thing. Golf needs energy. Golf needs passion. The sport has spent years trying to attract younger, louder, more engaged fans. The problem is that when you invite that kind of crowd energy into a sport where millimeter-level focus determines whether a shot lands on the green or in a bunker, you are playing with fire. All weekend long, players were navigating noise. They were navigating distractions. They were navigating the kind of crowd behavior that has been slowly creeping into major championship golf over the past several years and reaching a genuinely troubling level. And nobody felt that more intensely than Rory McIlroy. Because coming into Sunday, Rory was not just another player trying to climb a leaderboard. Rory McIlroy walked onto that Oak Hill course on Sunday, carrying the weight of an entire narrative. A narrative that millions of golf fans have been watching build for the better part of a decade. Think about what this man just accomplished. Last month, Rory McIlroy finally won the Masters. He finally got that green jacket. He finally completed a career Grand Slam and put to rest one of the most gut-wrenching, emotionally exhausting championship droughts in modern golf history. For years, Rory finishing short at Augusta was almost painful to watch. The near misses, the final round collapses, the visible frustration on his face every April when he walked off the 18th green without what he needed most. And then, finally, Augusta. Finally, the moment. So now, you have Rory McIlroy arriving at the PGA Championship as a man reborn, as a man who just lifted the sport's most symbolic trophy. And the expectation machine immediately shifted into overdrive, because now everybody wants to know, is this the beginning of Rory's dominant second chapter? Is this the version of McIlroy that can reel off multiple majors in a single season? Is the U.S. Open at Shinnecock going to give us Rory McIlroy holding 2 major trophies in the same calendar year? That is the pressure cooker he was walking into at Oak Hill. And underneath all of that expectation, all of that spotlight, all of that scrutiny, there were already cracks forming, and a certain crowd of fans was about to find exactly the right spot to push. The incident. Hole 16, the heckler, the explosion. Now, let's talk about the moment itself, because it is important to understand not just what happened, but exactly why it happened in the way that it did. Rory McIlroy was on the par 5-16 hole. Sunday afternoon. The tournament was slipping. The leaderboard had tightened, and he desperately needed birdie, ideally eagle, on the par 5 to have any realistic hope of catching Aaron right at the top. These were not optional opportunities. These were the moments the entire round was building toward. He was in the rough. Not a comfortable lie. Not a clean approach. He needed focus, feel, and precision to get the ball somewhere manageable from a difficult position. And in that exact moment, in the middle of his backswing, a fan yelled, not cheering, not applause at the wrong time, an intentional disruption, right in the backswing. And for anyone who's ever played golf at any level, you know exactly what that does. Your hands flinch. Your body reacts before your brain can stop it. The entire rhythm of the shot is destroyed in a fraction of a second. And instead of the controlled, careful chip Rory needed, the ball went directly into the greenside bunker. That was it. That was the moment. Rory McIlroy did not slowly turn around and calmly walk toward an official. He snapped. Television cameras caught it clearly. An obscenity directed back at the heckler. A sharp, furious command to shut up. A signal to security that was unmistakably emotional. And then, according to multiple reports that surfaced after the round, Rory personally went to PGA Championship officials and requested that the heckler be removed from the grounds entirely. Now, I want you to think about what it takes to reach that point. Rory McIlroy is one of the most experienced, most mentally trained professional golfers on the planet. This is a man who has played in dozens of majors. He has been through Ryder Cups, President's Cups, final round collapses, record-breaking victories, and every emotional extreme this sport can produce. You do not get to his level without developing at least some capacity to block out crowd noise. So when Rory McIlroy loses it publicly like that, visibly on national television at a major championship, that tells you something very important. That tells you this was not a one-moment emotional reaction. That tells you the pressure was already there. The frustration was already boiling. The heckler on 16 was just a match that lit something that had been building for a long, long time. And honestly, a lot of professional golfers understood that immediately, because this kind of fan behavior, the intentional disruption, the heckling during backswings, the personal abuse shouted at players in moments of vulnerability, has been getting steadily worse across professional golf for several years now. It is not an isolated incident. It is a pattern, and players have been talking about it privately for a while now. Sunday was a moment. It went completely public. Point 7. Here is something worth sitting with for a second. Think about Bethpage Black. Think about the Ryder Cup last year. If you watch those matches closely, you already know that McIlroy dealt with heckling that went far beyond golf rivalry energy. Personal, cruel, sustained. The kind of crowd behavior that crosses a line most reasonable people would agree is completely unacceptable regardless of which player or which team you are supporting. Rory handled a lot of that publicly with composure. He talked about it in press conferences. He advocated for better fan conduct standards. He essentially asked the sport to take this issue more seriously. And now, months later, standing on the 16th hole of the PGA Championship with a tournament slipping away and a heckler intentionally targeting his backswing, the composure finally broke. I do not think that makes Rory wrong. I think that makes him human. But what happens next is where the story gets genuinely complicated. The aftermath. Did Rory cross the line? Discipline incoming? So let's talk about the response. Because after the cameras caught what they caught, the conversation immediately split into two very predictable camps. Camp 1 said, Rory was absolutely right. The fans are out of control. Players deserve to be able to swing a golf club in a major championship without being deliberately disrupted. Whatever he said, whatever he did, that fan had it coming, and the tour should be taking fan conduct far more seriously than it currently does. Camp 2 said, Rory is a professional. He is a public figure. He is playing on national television for millions of dollars in prize money in front of a paying crowd. The standards of professional conduct apply regardless of what a fan does. He should have flagged security quietly and kept his composure. And here is where I land after thinking through this genuinely and carefully. Both camps are partially right. And the PGA Tour is now stuck right in the middle of that tension in a way that has no clean answer. Because here is what we know for certain coming out of the weekend. According to multiple credible sources close to the tour, PGA Tour officials have already issued Rory McIlroy a formal internal warning connected to player conduct expectations at major championship events. And beyond that warning, a financial penalty is reportedly under active internal discussion. Sources have described it as a very real possibility, rather than a hypothetical one. Now think about what that means and what it says about where the PGA Tour is right now. On one hand, the tour desperately needs its biggest stars to behave in ways that protect the image of professional golf during nationally televised broadcasts. Sponsors care about this. Television partners care about this. The casual fan who tunes into a major championship once a year and has no deep knowledge of the heckler situation or the Ryder Cup background. That fan just saw a world-famous golfer screaming obscenity at a paying spectator. That is not the image the PGA Tour wants attached to its most prestigious events. On the other hand, the PGA Tour fining or formally disciplining Rory McIlroy for reacting to a fan who deliberately disrupted his shot sends a completely different and equally damaging message. It tells players that the tour values its public image more than it values protecting its own athletes. It tells fans that certain behavior will essentially go unpunished as long as the player responding to it gets punished instead. One anonymous PGA Championship official was quoted describing Rory's reaction as, and I want to be careful to paraphrase this accurately, understandable emotionally, but still not within the conduct expectations of a major championship event. Understandable emotionally, but still not acceptable. That sentence right there tells you everything about where the PGA Tour is trapped. And as of Monday afternoon, neither Rory McIlroy nor anyone representing him had made any public comment about the reports of potential discipline, which means we are still waiting. And that waiting is significant, because what happens next, whether the tour acts, how they act, and how Rory responds, will say a great deal about the direction of the sport heading into the U.S. Open. Stay with me, because while all of that was happening, and I mean literally while the Rory story was dominating every golf conversation on Sunday evening, a second storyline was quietly reaching the surface. And this one may actually be bigger for the long-term future of professional golf. Aaron Rai, the winner nobody expected to dominate, before we get fully into the LIV Golf bombshell, because that is absolutely coming. Let us give proper credit to the man who actually won the PGA Championship. Because Aaron Rai's performance down the stretch on Sunday was genuinely remarkable, and it deserves more attention than has been getting given all the drama surrounding everything else this week. Aaron Rai walked into the final round with the lead and the pressure that comes with it, and he did not blink. He played the back nine like a man who was not interested in survival. He was interested in putting the tournament completely out of reach for birdies on his final holes, a closing round of 65. And the birdie he made on the 16th hole, the exact same hole where Rory McIlroy's momentum completely collapsed, that was almost poetically devastating. The contrast between those two moments on the same hole in the same round was one of the starkest images of the entire championship. Rory goes in the bunker. Aaron Rai makes birdie. The tournament effectively ends right there. And what makes Rai's win particularly meaningful is the journey behind it. This is not a player who came in with a decade of major victories behind him. This is a player who has been grinding, developing, and working toward exactly this kind of breakthrough moment. And he delivered it on the biggest possible stage. By the end of Sunday, Aaron Rai held the Wanamaker Trophy and stood as the PGA champion with a winning total of 9 under par, 5 full shots clear of the field. That is a dominant major championship victory by any standard. And it happened at Oak Hill Country Club, while one of the most emotionally charged storylines in recent golf memory was unfolding all around him. Credit where it is absolutely due. Aaron Rai was excellent this week. He earned every inch of that trophy. But now, let's talk about what was happening in the background of this entire week. Because I promised you a bombshell, and it is time to deliver it. The LIV Golf bombshell. Is the empire crumbling? All right. I need you to really pay attention to this segment, Because what I am about to walk you through represents potentially the most significant shift in professional golf's landscape since LIV Golf launched and essentially declared war on the PGA Tour several years ago, during PGA Championship week. Quietly, away from the main cameras, away from the Oak Hill spotlight, reports began circulating throughout professional golf that stopped a lot of people cold. LIV Golf may be losing its Saudi Arabian public investment fund backing after the 2026 season. Read that again slowly. LIV Golf, the rebel league that spent hundreds of millions of dollars luring the biggest names in professional golf, that signed Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka and Phil Mickelson and Jon Rahm and dozens of others to guaranteed contracts worth fortunes, that forced an entire restructuring conversation about the PGA Tour's business model, that created a civil war within professional golf that is still being felt today. That organization may be facing an existential financial crisis. According to reports that surfaced during PGA Championship week, players inside LIV Golf received information during their Mexico event that the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund's financial commitment to the league beyond 2026 is suddenly, genuinely uncertain. Now, let me be clear about what uncertain means here. It does not necessarily mean LIV Golf disappears overnight. These things are complicated. There are contracts. There are negotiations. There are political considerations connecting to the broader Saudi Arabia sports investment strategy. This is not a simple clean ending. But the fact that this information is circulating among players inside the league, the fact that enough people are talking about contingency plans that it is leaking publicly, tells you that the people actually inside LIV Golf are taking this seriously. These are not outside analysts speculating. These are players and insiders who are beginning to plan for a future that looks very different from the future they signed up for. And nobody made that more concrete this week than Patrick Reed. Patrick Reed. Remember that name, because his story is about to become one of the most interesting threads in professional golf over the next 18 months. Reed was one of the defining faces of the LIV Golf movement. He was one of the players who went all in on the Rebel circuit, embraced the controversy, played the events, and essentially committed to a future outside the PGA Tour structure. He was a symbol of the divide. And then, in January, he quietly walked away from LIV Golf. He left following a victory at the Dubai Desert Classic, and most of the golf world moved on without fully processing what that departure represented. This week, Reed opened up publicly about the LIV Golf financial situation. He said he was genuinely surprised by how quickly the uncertainty arrived. He admitted he did not see the Saudi backing questions coming at that speed. And then he said something that might be the most significant line of the entire week. He said he hopes LIV Golf players continue getting opportunities somewhere because he still has strong relationships with many of the players there. Hope they find opportunities somewhere. That is not the language of someone talking about a thriving, financially secure league with a long runway. That is the language of someone who has already processed the possibility that the league might not survive in its current form. And Reed's own path forward makes this even more interesting. He is officially working his way back toward the PGA Tour. He cannot officially return until August due to eligibility timelines. But in the meantime, he has been absolutely dominant on the DP World Tour. 2 wins in 3 starts, building an early race to Dubai lead. And he told reporters this week that he is genuinely excited about competing against Rory McIlroy again over a full season. He described their matchups as the kind that create fireworks. Rory McIlroy and Patrick Reed, back on the same tour, competing against each other. With all the history between them, all the LIV Golf drama behind them, all the Ryder Cup tension still fresh, and the U.S. Open at Shinnecock on the immediate horizon. If you think professional golf is about to become must-watch television, you are not wrong. What this means to the PGA Tour, the bigger picture. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about what all of this, taken together, actually means for the PGA Tour in the direction of professional golf heading into the second half of 2025 and beyond. Because these stories feel separate when you read them in isolation. Rory McIlroy reacting to a heckler, Aaron Rai winning the PGA Championship, Patrick Reed returning from LIV Golf, Saudi backing uncertainty, fan behavior escalating, potential player discipline. But they're not separate. They are all threads of the same larger story. And when you pull them together, what you see is a sport in a genuine moment of transformation. Think about the PGA Tour's position right now. The Tour spent years in direct conflict with LIV Golf. It was an ugly, expensive, politically complicated war. Players were choosing sides. Friendships were ending. Sponsors were nervous. The entire structure of professional golf looked like it might fracture permanently. And now, without the Tour having to fire a single shot in the final battle, LIV Golf may be beginning to unravel from the inside. The financial model that required essentially unlimited Saudi state investment is running into limits. Players who went all in on that model are beginning to look for the exits. And the PGA Tour, whatever its current flaws, whatever the legitimate criticisms about its own business decisions, is still standing as the world's most credible, most prestigious, most established professional golf circuit. That is a massive shift in leverage. And it has happened quietly, without a single press conference or dramatic announcement. But here is where the PGA Tour cannot afford to get complacent, because with players potentially returning from LIV Golf, with Reed coming back, with others reportedly exploring DP World Tour lifelines as contingency options, the Tour has an opportunity and a responsibility at the same time. The opportunity is obvious. If the world's best players come back, the Tour's competitive fields get deeper, the storylines get richer. The rivalries at LIV Golf fracture have a chance to restart in a context where they actually matter to major championship results. The responsibility is harder, because some of the reasons players left in the first place, the guaranteed money concerns, the scheduling pressures, the feeling among some players that the Tour's structure did not fully value their contributions. Those issues did not disappear. If the Tour brings players back without genuinely addressing those underlying tensions, the same friction will build again eventually. And in the middle of all of this stands a fan behavior question. Because here is something worth saying directly. If professional golf is going to succeed at attracting bigger, louder, younger audiences, which it absolutely needs to do for long-term health, it also needs to be honest about what that means for the atmosphere around players. You cannot market golf as the next great fan experience while simultaneously leaving players to absorb whatever behavior those crowds decide to bring. Rory McIlroy snapping at a heckler on 16 is a symptom of a larger problem the PGA Tour has been slow to address. The Tour needs a clear, enforced fan conduct standard, not a vague warning system, not a case-by-case judgment call that results in the victim of the disruption potentially getting fined. A real, visible, consistently enforced standard that players can trust will protect them during the moments when it matters most. Until that exists, moments like Sunday are going to keep happening, and they are going to keep generating exactly this kind of conversation. 7 Shinnecock, and what comes next? The road ahead. So, where does all of this leave us heading into Shinnecock Hills and the U.S. Open? Rory McIlroy arrives at the next major as the Masters champion, as a player who just finished the PGA Championship at 4 under and 5 shots back despite the 16th hole disaster, and as a man carrying a simmering public controversy that has not yet been fully resolved. The discipline question is still open. The fan behavior question is still open. And the pressure of chasing another major in the same calendar year, with all the narrative weight that carries, is absolutely, completely, fully on. Shinnecock is one of the most demanding golf courses in the United States. It has hosted multiple U.S. Opens and has a history of absolutely brutal, punishing conditions. It rewards patience and precision. It punishes emotional golf. It punishes the kind of volatile, reactive energy that we saw from Rory on Sunday at Oak Hill. Which means, and I say this with genuine respect for what Rory has accomplished this year, his ability to channel Sunday's frustration into something constructive is going to matter enormously at Shinnecock. The mental reset between now and the first round of the U.S. Open is not optional. It is essential. Meanwhile, Aaron Rai arrives at Shinnecock as the reigning PGA champion. Watch for him to carry serious confidence into that tournament. Major champions often play their best golf in the immediate aftermath of a breakthrough victory. The monkey is off the back. The pressure of the first major win is gone. He will tee it up at Shinnecock as a proven major champion for the first time in his career. And the Patrick Reed storyline continues developing quietly in the background. August eligibility means he will not be at Shinnecock as a PGA Tour member, but he will be watching. And a lot of the golf world will be watching him right back. All right. Let me give you my honest take on everything we just walked through, because this is what Rick Analysis PGA is about, not just recapping what happened, but actually saying something real about it. On Rory and the Heckler, I am not going to pretend the obscenity on camera was a great look. It was not, but I also refuse to sit here and tell you that Rory McIlroy was wrong for reacting the way he did. When a fan deliberately disrupts a player's shot during a major championship, intentionally, they have crossed a line. And a player who's been dealing with that behavior for years, after a decade of pressure and scrutiny and expectations, finally reaching a breaking point in a moment that cost him real competitive damage. That is not a conduct violation. That is a human being reaching the absolute end of their patience. The fine conversation makes me genuinely frustrated. If the PGA Tour wants to find someone in connection with what happened on 16, it should be seriously examining whether the fan who caused the disruption should ever be allowed inside a professional golf event again. That is the real conduct issue. On LIV Golf, I will be honest with you. When LIV Golf first launched, I was deeply skeptical about how long the Saudi investment patience would last. Unlimited money for a league with no major championship pathways and shrinking television visibility was always a fragile model. And now, watching the uncertainty emerge exactly when some of the biggest LIV names are already exploring exits, it feels like we're watching the early stages of something significant. I do not think LIV Golf disappears cleanly or quickly, but I think 2026 is going to look very different from 2023. On Patrick Reed coming back, I think this is going to generate enormous energy when it fully arrives. Reed is a polarizing figure. He always has been, but polarizing figures make sports better. And if he and Rory are competing in the same events, with all the history between them, all the drama behind them, that is compelling television, whether you love both of them or hate both of them or sit somewhere in between. The bottom line from this PGA Championship weekend is simple. Professional golf is in motion. Real, significant motion. And you cannot afford to look away right now. That is the full breakdown from your boy Rick. And if you made it this far in the video, genuinely, thank you. This is the kind of deep, honest golf analysis I want this channel to be known for. Not surface-level recaps. Not clickbait with nothing behind it. Real conversations about the sport we love. If you're not subscribed yet, do it right now. We are brand new at Rick Analysis PGA, and we are building something here for fans who actually care about what is happening in professional golf beyond just the scorecards. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell. You will not regret it. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Rory was right or wrong on 16? And do you think LIV Golf survives past 2026? I am reading every single comment on this video, and I will be responding. One more thing before you go. And I want you to remember this. We are heading into the U.S. Open at Shinnecock. Rory is coming. Aaron Rai is coming as champion. The LIV Golf situation is developing. And Patrick Reed's PGA Tour return is getting closer every week. The next chapter of the story is going to be massive. And I promise you, Rick Analysis PGA will be right here breaking down every piece of it. I will see you in the next one.